I woke up today way earlier than I normally do with this message that I really was bouncing around in my brain, and just this urge to share it with the world. So I'm about 11 days now into a new self-commitment every day, which is to actually approach hot girls that I see out in the wild instead of relying on dating apps. That's the practice. And so when I say day 11, I've started actually tracking it. Anyway, so I woke up this morning with this idea bouncing around in my head, because I've learned so much in just 11 days of doing this. But one really, really core thing that I've learned, so like if you're like most guys, and if you're like me, how I have been for pretty much my whole life, when you see a really attractive girl in public, stranger, you think to yourself, holy shit, she's hot, she's cute, she's gorgeous, she's whatever. And then you get approach anxiety, right? But the thing is that the longer you leave approaching, the longer you don't approach, the worse your anxiety gets. Your mind tries to fill in the blanks. And if you're anything like me, then you end up like that kind of energy, that energy inside you, that is attracted to this girl. That energy wants to get out of you. It wants to be expressed. And the longer that you don't do that, the more it starts to fester. And it can turn into regret. I mean, it can turn into regret within the first few seconds of actually not acting on what that energy wants to do. It's so interesting. So like I'm day 11 into approaching not every single girl I see, because sometimes it just doesn't feel right. I can't approach every single girl I see because she's 100 meters away, on the other side of the road and walking in the wrong direction, and I'm not gonna run after her, But if I actually can go and talk to her, in the gym or in the supermarket or on the street, I might have to go out of my way a little bit, but that's the task. And there's girls, I have so many of those situations happen every single day. And so it's been really interesting to compare what actually happens in my body when I do actually go and express my truth. So the core idea in this video that I want to share with you, I've stopped calling cold approaching. I think a much better term for this, for those of you that watch videos about cold approaching, is truth approaching. And I'll tell you why. When you approach a hot girl, when you get out of your comfort zone, when you face down your approach anxiety and you physically force your legs to move in her direction, and you say, excuse me, and you get her attention, and then you get your truth out of your body, out of your mouth, I promise you, if you haven't really done this very much, you won't have much of a reference for what happens when you actually do this. And I'm day 11 into doing this. And when you actually get your truth, the moment that your attraction is revealed, expressed, even halfway through the sentence, whatever it is. Hey, I know this is super random. I just saw you over there. I've never really done this before. I'm really nervous. I mean, whatever disclaimers will make you feel better. And also whatever disclaimers you think might make her feel better to, alleviate some of your approach anxiety. But then as soon as you actually start to say, I just saw you over there and I thought you were absolutely gorgeous, or whatever it is, as soon as you start getting those words out of your mouth, your body will relax. It's one of the most amazing things that I wasn't expecting when I started this journey. It doesn't actually matter what her reaction is. This is not fear of rejection. I don't think that guys that have approach anxiety, myself being one of them, it's not rejection that we're afraid of. We're scared of all of the million possible things that could happen because of being seen by other people. Like if we're in the gym, our mind fills our brain comes up with, scenarios of whatever, like, her boyfriend coming over and being like, bro, fuck off, or the gym staff coming up to you and saying something, that like, oh, don't do that here. I don't know. None of that stuff actually happens. Because the thing is, it's actually, all of this comes down to the fact that it's completely normal to feel attracted to people. And so if you approach someone, even a stranger, you say, excuse me, you get someone's attention. If you name the context, right? I know we're in the gym right now. I know we're in the supermarket right now. I know you're working. I know we're on a bus. I know whatever. Doesn't matter. If you name the context, it shows her and it shows you that you're a human being and that you can, like, you're socially, socially normal. That's going to relax you. That's going to relax you. This is something that I had no idea would actually happen before I actually started approaching girls, is that I would be relaxed before I'd even finished the opening sentence. And this is so, so important because when you, it's amazing. Like, I'll just share a little story. So yesterday, so I live in New Zealand, if the accent wasn't blindingly obvious. And yesterday I travel all over the country for work, and I was in Queenstown yesterday, which is like one of the highest density places in New Zealand for attractive girls. And I was on my way to the gym and I was shitting myself because I've made this commitment to myself that I'm going to practice approaching really pretty girls when I see them. And so when I go to the gym, which I do all the time, 3 to 6 days a week, I knew that I was going to be placed in a situation where I was going to be, inundated with really attractive girls, which meant that I was going to be put on the spot. So I was kind of low-key shitting myself. Anyway, I walk into the gym and straight away I see like a 10 out of 10, maybe a 9, but like she was really, really good looking, man. I'll tell you that. I'm not going to go into all the gory details here, but use your imagination. She was fucking gorgeous, right? It took me a while to actually pluck up the courage. I didn't walk up to her straight away. I didn't really want to walk into the gym and then straight away just be like, hey, I just saw you. Because I'm still dealing with my own approach anxiety. Anyway, I get sort of established into my workout, and I picked a moment, where she was not talking to anybody, not in the middle of a set. She was right in the middle of the gym, but I just went over there. I just physically forced my legs to move, right? And I got her attention. I said, excuse me. And by the time I was halfway through, the first fucking words that were coming out of my mouth, I was relaxed. Because I'd been true to myself. I'd actually expressed, I was committing to and acting on the feelings of attraction that I had for this girl. And so it didn't really matter what I said, to be honest, and it didn't really matter what she said either. That's what's amazing about this, is that if you actually do what your soul is calling for you to do, and approaching hot girls and revealing your attraction for them, which is normal. It's normal to do that. It's sexy to do that, especially if you do it in a socially calibrated way, right? So I said to this girl, and I was actually really puffed because I just finished a set in the gym, and I said, excuse me, I know we're in the gym. I said, yeah, excuse me, I know we're in the gym, so it feels a little weird for me to be doing this. And like in this moment, you know, I'm standing in front of a 10. I've never approached a 10. I've never approached 10s in my life. And here she was, and I'm talking to her, and there's something that happens in your brain and in your body when you're actually talking to a real person. Because if you have approach anxiety and you're not used to approaching girls, when you see a hot girl, a stranger, your body, your brain is going to put her on a pedestal, right? And your mind is going to fill in all the blanks about who she is. I had clocked this girl as being cold, and, you know, because I had like 30 minutes in the gym before I actually approached her, which is really bad advice, by the way. Like, don't leave it that long in general. And all of that time that I'd spent working out and sort of like stealing glances because of my approach anxiety, my mind by that time had filled in all of these blanks because it doesn't really have any other choice. I'd clocked her as being this kind of arrogant, stuck up herself little bitch, basically. And when I actually went over there and started talking to her, within the first few words that came out of her mouth, I realized that it's like you have all of this context, all of this contextual data about who this person actually is, that you just don't have if you don't actually go up and talk to her, right? So the hardest part of this is just getting your attraction out, and you can do it in a socially calibrated way. You say, you know, you just name the context, name your reality, name her reality. Just, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, because you're just starting a conversation with someone, but you're revealing your attraction for them, which is a normal thing. It's normal to be attracted. It's going to make her day. It made this chick's day. As soon as she realized, as soon as I told her that I thought she was absolutely gorgeous, you know, she blushed, started playing with her hair, right? You know, and because I had actually expressed my attraction, in that moment, I was off the hook. I'd done the thing. I'd done the thing that everybody else is too scared to do. It's not even that everybody else is too scared to do it. I'd been true to myself. You know, I'd acted on feelings of attraction. And so my nerves in that moment straight away were gone. And because they were gone, in that moment, I was actually able to have a conversation with her and flirt with her a little bit. You know, like talk about her travels here in New Zealand. She wasn't a New Zealander. And, you know, I asked her if she was going to this place, and she said no. And then because it's like the place that's like the 100% you have to go to Milford Sound when you're in New Zealand, and she wasn't going there, I started roasting her a little bit, you know, just like gently, because I was grounded in that moment, because I'd expressed my attraction. I wasn't hiding anything, right? So guys, we're scared when we have approach anxiety that our attraction for a woman is going to be received badly. It will not be received badly. It will be received positively. And the reason for that is because it's not actually about you. When you express your attraction for someone, it's not about you. In your mind, it's all about you. But actually, if you, like, think about it, if somebody comes up to you and does that, you're not really going to be thinking about them. You're going to be thinking about you because they've complimented you, right? So move the needle. What I mean by that is you have to start. If you're wondering, like if you're trying to find ways of getting around this by, you know, reducing your approach anxiety without actually doing it, It doesn't work that way. You have to actually start doing it. But the core idea, the reason I wanted to film this is because when you express that energy inside you, that attraction, when you get it out and you communicate it to the person that it's about, your whole nervous system is going to completely relax. Right? And if you don't, you'll be filled with regret. So I'll leave you with this. The next really attractive woman that you see out in public, if it's actually, don't lie to yourself, but if it's reasonably convenient for you to go over there, and when I say convenient, I don't mean socially convenient, I mean physically convenient. If you can walk up to her without going wildly out of your way, I want you to do that. Say, excuse me, get her attention, and say, hey, I know this is really random. I've never done this before, so I'm really nervous if you are. And then say, I just noticed you and I thought you were really gorgeous. And I knew that I would regret it if I didn't come and say something. I cannot tell you how many times in my life I have not approached a girl and I have fucking regretted it for so long afterwards. So say that. Say that to her. Say, you are so gorgeous. You are so attractive. I know that's a random thing to say to a stranger, but there's been so many times in my life where I haven't acted on this and I've regretted it afterwards. And then introduce yourself.